Hi, and welcome to the Near the Cross podcast. My name is Olivia Post, and this is a place where my friends and I seek Jesus in scripture, in theology, and in each other. Like the women who stayed near Christ in his final hours, we have seen Jesus for who he is, given him our hearts, and recognized that there's no one else to whom we can go. Come on in. Let's see what he might have for us today. Welcome back to the podcast. It's hard to believe it's already February. I'm excited this month to be back in conversation with women from our church. We spent the first few months talking about our identity, about what it means to be made in the image of God as women. Our goal in teaching through the podcast this year was to divide it into 3 sections: who we are in Christ, which we've already done, how we relate to the Lord in our devotional lives, which we're going to start today, and then how we relate to one another, which we'll get to in the last couple months. The church has traditionally tried to ground believers in basic Christian doctrine, in devotional living with the Lord's Prayer, and in Christian ethics with the Sermon on the Mount and the 10 Commandments. I haven't told you guys before why we're teaching what we're teaching in the podcast, but we've used that kind of division as the outline for our topics. So this month and next month, we will focus on issues that affect women's devotional lives. Shoo, still with me? Okay, today we'll be talking about how we can seek Christ in the lives we are already living, about how we can develop daily spiritual rhythms. And for your listening delight and edification today, I have with me 2 of our beloved sisters, a return guest and a matriarch of our women's ministry, Miss Becky.
Hey, how are you? It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming back, Miss Becky. I'm so glad you're here this morning.
I'm excited to be here.
And one of my dear friends and an Irving Church favorite, Jordan Rowell.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Jordan. Today we are going to be talking about the power of our habits, and specifically of the spiritual rhythms that shape our lives and our homes. So just why I've chosen to talk with us today. Like me, Miss Becky has found life in the Lord through the power of spiritual rhythms. So she was happy to join me and talk about them. And I wanted Jordan to have this conversation with us specifically because this is a topic that she cares a lot about in her own life with the Lord, and as she and her husband, Josh, have shaped their home. A lot of you may not know Jordan as well as we do, but Jordan is a person of steady love. She has a wide welcome for people, and she's a person of deep generosity. So I'm really happy, Jordan, that you said yes to joining us today.
I'm happy to be here.
So before we get into our content, I hope we have lots of practical things to share with you, but I wanted to begin with the invitation that we have in the Lord today. I'm hopeful that what we offer today is a gift of hope and joy in this new year for your life with the Lord. The Lord would like to meet with you this year. He is present to you, and he has good things for you. He has changes and a blessing of his presence that he would like to give you. You may have to do something different to meet with him, but it won't be that hard. He would really like to step into your life in a new way this year. Our part in allowing this to happen has been called spiritual rhythms, and that's what we are going to talk about today. So, spiritual rhythms. This phrase has been tossed around in Christian circles. We have read books about this. If this podcast is about spiritual rhythms, which it is, what do you think that means? And why does it matter to you? So, Jordan, would you like to go first?
Sure. This topic is special to me because through multiple failures of trying to work in time with the Lord, through different seasons of life, I have found a good way that works in our home. And just some freedom in it where it's okay when they're missed, and it's okay if it doesn't look like I planned for that day. We can circle back and start the next, or just work with what we were given that day. And so it's been a really sweet thing that the Lord's worked out in my life. And spiritual rhythms to me are just an average normal moment in my day that are intentionally moving me to the Lord. They're simple ways that just bring me to God and by myself alone or with my kids or with Josh next to me. And it's been really sweet for our family.
Good. Thank you. That's easy to understand and helpful, and a sweet invitation with a lot of grace in it. So, yeah. What would you say, Miss Becky?
I found that spiritual rhythms just, they are a means to draw me closer to God every day, and just to practice some rhythm. I may not get all the rhythms in that I want to get in, but it seems like if I can be disciplined and I have a rhythm, then I'm called to do that, and then I will start missing it. And so it's like a habit that to be formed, and it's like training. It for me, it's been like training. And I mentioned to you to run a marathon. I can't. I'm not. Well, I'm never going to run a marathon. Okay, I'm 67, and I've never even run a mile. But
Yes, you have.
so to run it, I would have to train, right? And so I would need to do this every day, and get this training in before I could ever run a marathon. So in order to have a deep relationship with God, I need something. I need training. I need to establish a rhythm to do that. When I do this, it's more like I can see the face of God. And then in what I do, I can see him looking back at me. And I have a sweet time that I share with him. And so I start looking forward to that every day and going to bed with that. So that's what spiritual rhythms do to me. They grow me spiritually, transform me into a deeper relationship with God. I think he loves it. I think he loves that, to spend time with me.
Yeah, I think he does too. So something I thought I would clarify just in our answers about how we're using even the phrase spiritual rhythms. So there are 3 books actually that are shaping to what we're talking about today. And one of them, even the phrase, spiritual rhythms isn't the phrase, but Ruth Haley Barton has a book called Sacred Rhythms, which is a book that we will plug here. And Miss Becky and I have both read that book. And she talks about, one of the things I was thinking is the difference in spiritual disciplines and spiritual rhythms. So how are we using those different? Because the spiritual disciplines, some of them are what we do in our spiritual rhythm. So how are we using those things? And what she says is the spiritual disciplines are the basic components of the rhythm of intimacy that we have with God. But once we learn the disciplines, there is an infinite creativity for putting them together in a rhythm that works for us. So that's what both of you are talking about. And I think that most of us know the kinds of practices that we could put in place in our lives that would lead us to the Lord, or at least the classic ones. You know, we're going to talk today about all kinds of ways you can seek the Lord in your day, but most of us know that we would be blessed by scripture reading and prayer, Sabbath, solitude, fast. Most of us are familiar enough with spiritual disciplines, or we've been taught them. But when we say spiritual rhythms, it's kind of what you said in yours, Jordan, or even yours, Miss Becky. It's the freedom to put those in your life in a creative way that fits the flow of your life, the season of your life.
Absolutely, yes.
And so that's what we're meaning. We're using spiritual practices in your own life and creating rhythms to that.
Yes.
So what we're going to talk about today, so the topic is so big, we could have multiple podcasts about it. Since we have to talk about it for one 50-minute section or less, we are going to talk about how we establish rhythms in one day. That is not my strongest suit, is the day rhythms. There are spiritual rhythms that guide our years and broader times in our life. So I'm going to do a small plug for those before we dig into daily rhythms. So spiritual rhythms that would be for an entire year, they are still important, and they can be very formational. For me and Luke and our family, they are some of our most formational rhythms. So for example, our family vacation that's once a year, we view that as an extended Sabbath. So our weekly Sabbath practice, we extend that, and it's the best, and we start looking forward to it. Luke makes us wait till June before we start talking about it. But it's in November, but it's so important and we love it. Extended times of solitude are probably me and Luke's most important disciplines. And then the Christian calendar, I was thinking, that's one of my most favorites, but that's not a day thing. That's a whole year kind of thing, but that shapes us in this story. So those are all things we could talk about. That would be great. So for example, times of solitude that are away. I think God speaks to us in ways when we carve out time and there are no other relationships, and that he can only do that when everything else is quiet. But let's say that I find the Lord in solitude most easily. But what does that mean if my house is full of people? Do I have to wait till once or maybe twice a year to find him very deeply? That would be very unfortunate, right? So there has to be a way that even if we have rich experiences in certain practices, that we find him in our daily lives. Luke gave me a quote from Dallas Willard that he said was a rough quote, but he says, "We tend to think that our jobs and our regular life are non-spiritual. If that is the case, we must live most of our lives apart from Jesus." Here's another one. In The Divine Conspiracy, Dallas Willard says, "We must accept the circumstances we constantly find ourselves in as the place of God's kingdom and blessing. God has yet to bless anyone except where they actually are." God has yet to bless anyone except where they actually are. So if we actually believe that every moment of our day and our life right now, with all the circumstances we have right now, is where the Lord wants to meet us, how could we find him there? And that's what we want to invite ourselves into more in this podcast. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I would just say I'm glad that you talked about that, because about the yearly, about maybe weekly, monthly, whatever, because I just think that's so important too, and I wanted that to be mentioned, and I've enjoyed times like that, but not as much as that rhythm isn't in my life as much as I think it should be. And so I think that's so beautiful that y'all go, that vacation is that, and it's a rhythm for y'all, and it's going to happen no matter what. And I experienced one time, I decided to go out in my little she shed in the back for 2 days and stay there and fast. And I didn't fast for the entire 2 days, and it started raining. I was back there, and I was alone in solitude and silence. And I don't typically do that, but it's going to be a rhythm. I did it last year, and so I'm going to do it again this year. There's no bathroom, and so I had to take a potty chair out there because I stayed out there the whole entire time and it was a beautiful time with the Lord. And so that's something I just started at age 67.
Right.
So anyway.
And I was thinking, I wonder there's even something personality or, whatever that is that would lead it to be harder sometimes in just the normal overwhelm of life. I mean, maybe it's something that most people struggle with. There was a lot in my reading about you want to do the big things, but the everyday things are hard. So that is what we're going to talk about. But I know that not everybody can choose or has the space to be like, okay, this year I'm going to go for 2 days. I would want everybody to try.
Anyone can use my little she shed if they want to with a potty chair.
Put a bathroom in there,
just
and
let me
then
know.
I'll think about it.
Let me know. You just have to go empty the potty thing out every once in a while.
Right, we might need a bathroom.
Yeah.
I think Jordan's house might be a better solitude. I might go to Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Her little guest house.
Yes. But just to make it the most simple, especially, I think, Jordan, your heart is especially for people who just think, I can't add anything else. Mm-hmm.
I think I was struggling in my day-to-day, especially as a young mom with young kids. And so that's where I thought, I need to see some change happen here. And there was a moment, Jessa was a baby, Jace was running around crazy doing something, and she just had an explosion diaper. And it was all over me, and it was all over her. And I thought, where do you even start? And then I just started laughing. And I had the thought of God meets us wherever we are in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm thinking, he's laughing with me too. He is here in this crazy with me. And so that just changed my everyday of he's in it all, no matter what I'm doing, wherever I am. And so that just kind of set me on this journey of, well, how can I put these everyday moments out for him where I can also meet him where he's meeting me?
I think that is really central. And I think sometimes my experience of these times that really did refresh me. I was having to eke out all of these moments with the Lord. And then, I'd come home lifted up in solitude. And then I'd be like, who knows how many hours it would take. And then I'd be like, oh, man, no, all that's gone.
and a diaper exploded.
Yes. And so I think, we'll talk further in here about how we have found the Lord in our days. And I think finding how good he is right here has been the work of my life, and I'm not awesome at it, but getting better. So it's a good segue into the Lord is present in our days. Not only present in our days, but it's our daily lives that are actually the most formative to us spiritually. So we're going to talk about how we can find him, but also examining what's happening every day to see the formative nature that it has and to recognize the power of our choices in that. So I'm going to quote from a book by Tish Harrison Warren called Liturgy of the Ordinary. It's the second book that I'm going to recommend, not just because we're kind of ripping it off in the podcast, and so y'all need to know that, but if you wanted to dig into some of these thoughts, it's a really beautiful book. I'm going to read this through and then especially get you guys to ask for clarification, and we can talk about it if we need to. She says, we need to learn the slow habits of loving God and those around us. Daily life, dishes in the sink, children that ask the same questions and want the same stories again and again and again, the long doldrums of the afternoon. These things are filled with repetition, and much of the Christian life is returning over and over to the same work and the same habits of worship. We must contend with the same spiritual struggles again and again. The work of repentance and faith is daily and repetitive. Again and again, we repent and believe. The kind of spiritual life and disciplines needed to sustain the Christian life are quiet, repetitive, and ordinary. I often want to skip the boring daily stuff to get to the thrill of an edgy faith, but it's in the dailiness of the Christian faith, the making the bed, the doing the dishes, the praying for our enemies, the reading the Bible, the quiet, the small, that God's transformation takes root and grows. We are sanctified, made holy, not in the abstract, but through our concrete vocation. So she's saying like what we're called to just in our daily life. Christian holiness is not a free-floating goodness removed from the world a few feet above the ground. It is specific and in some sense tailored to who we particularly are. We can't be holy in the abstract. Instead, we become a holy blacksmith or a holy mother or a holy physician or a holy systems analyst. We seek God in and through our particular vocation, our particular calling, and our place in life. We learn the craft of holiness day by day in the living of a particular life. So, like your story, you're laughing, like you're learning how you actually meet God when you're with your children and you have to change diapers, And so I learned that I could pray all the time when I'm alone with the Lord. I'm like, why can I talk to you so easy if I'm by myself? But if I have a lot of people talking to me at my house, I feel like there were just sections where I would just lose his presence. I would just be like, where did he go? But if I can't be a holy mother, holy wife, a holy student, whatever, all the things that I am. I was thinking of, we're going to talk about Kayla and her work, but I was thinking a holy loan officer, a holy, the thing you're actually called to, that is where you learn the holiness that you have. I think I am someone who wants to skip the boring daily stuff to get to the thrill of an edgy faith. I'm always thinking, okay, when will all this stuff be over? And then I can go do the thing that was really big for the Lord, or
right.
When it's every single day is not only like where you meet him, but also that is where you're being formed. Like that's where you're either becoming more like him or not when you'd be like, oh, I recognize this is where I'm supposed to act like.
So what that means to me is And I found this out probably later in life, 20 years ago, maybe 45-ish, whenever this idea was, Terry kind of brought this forth for the church we were pastoring at the time. And I began making very early morning important and getting up and doing this. And what I find that it does for me is when I give him the very beginnings of my day, then he is with me and reminding me when I invite him in and have that time with him. I hear him reminding me, he nudges me in these ways during the day that I've given to him that morning, and then he's with me. I find him with me more during the day. I don't know if that's kind of part of this, but I just think it's a beautiful thing that for me, when I can spend that time with him early and make that time a priority. Yes, did I want to sleep back then when I still had kids at home? Yeah, I wanted to keep sleeping because I knew it was going to be a long day. But when I would get up at 5 before anybody got up, and I went to work, I had to go to work too. So I actually did work for a while, like at a school. But yeah, that was for me how beautiful it shaped me. And also, I believe that praying over and asking God to protect me through the day from the enemy, and for him to let me see when something may be coming at me, I have that help then. I have that protection from the enemy. I just wanted to kind of put that in there.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. That is part of how our habits form us each day, which we're going to, it's a good.
Did I jump ahead?
A little bit, but it's fine. You just brought us so well into our next thing, and we'll use it. So that's wonderful. Like Miss Becky's saying, so if we do recognize it, that our daily lives are forming us, that all those habits are making us more holy, that they are the stuff that we're working with, where God has placed us in our calling in the world, the work he has for us. So what we want to become aware of and want to work through some practically in the rest of this time is, how are those habits forming us each day? So if the big Christian stuff isn't just for Sundays or for some moment when we go and do that Christian-y thing that we have thought we're going to do, how are we being formed by the habits that we practice every day? And have we recognized the shaping power of the things that we're already doing? Those routines are formative. So we're going to call them also kind of a liturgy of formation. So that's the way that, some of the books are calling them. Like we have a liturgy at church, in case that isn't familiar to you, meaning just like kind of a list of practices that you would go through. It can be formative or not formative. When we use the word liturgy, we're actually wanting to make those formational in a beautiful way. Liturgies have to do with worship. Me and you talked about that, Jordan. So just because you have a routine or habit doesn't mean you call that a liturgy that is beautifully formative. So your routine that you already have is shaping you in a certain way. James K. Smith says that no habit or practice is neutral. Certain kinds of habits and practices are aimed at certain goals, and other habits or practices are aimed at other goals. They're trying to make us into a certain kind of person. So one of the most important questions we need to ask is, what kind of person is this habit or practice trying to produce? And to what end is such a practice aimed? Tish Harrison Warren says, we can look at our day as a daily liturgy, everyday habits, or formative practices, as something that both reveals and shapes what we love and worship. Thinking through that, just kind of walk through your day. We're going to talk about waking up, and then we're going to talk about working and going to sleep. But for example, when you wake up, the first things that you do when you wake up are shaping you one way or the other. Your bodily habits right when you wake up. And what is that forming you to do? Your habit or your practice is not neutral. And so that's what we're going to kind of examine. So what you were sharing, Miss Becky, is you realized what you did in the morning either sent you one way or sent you another, that was not a neutral kind of thing for you. Correct. And that it set you a certain way, one way or the other. And there's just been a lot of talk lately about the power of habits. The book that Jordan loves, that is the third book that we would like to recommend, is called Habits of the Household. His name is Justin Whitmell Early. And he says, when our heads go one way and our hearts go another, guess which way the heart follows? The heart always follows the habit. When we say, okay, this day is the Lord's, but if all of our habits all day long don't necessarily follow that way, our heart is going to follow all of our habits. He says, one of the most significant things about any household is what it considers to be normal. So the normal things in your house, the habits of your house, of your heart, yourself personally, those are going to kind of reveal what is normal to you, what's shaping you. So let's just talk about that so that can become a little bit more practically obvious for you. So we're each going to share something that we accepted as normal, and it showed what we loved, what we worshiped, and maybe it wasn't we weren't intending that to be true for us, but it was. So how was a habit that you were doing with your body, just you were practicing and you're like, oh wow, that wasn't how I was wanting to be shaped? Jordan, you want to go first?
Sure. I felt like our mornings were not beneficial or benefiting anybody. I'd wake up, grab my phone, and start on my air quote to-do list for the day. And the kids would wake up as they would wake up and be on the couch with the TV. And the minute it was time to get going with our homeschool day or whatever we had planned, just nobody was in a good headspace. And so after reading this book about 3 years ago, the mornings was what I really wanted to change. I wanted to start our day off just in a better place. Now, I'm not a morning person. I like mornings, but to me, mornings start at 7. That's just when I naturally wake up. And so anytime I would try to wake up super early and do some kind of study or spend time with the Lord, I was not a super happy person about it. Or if kids interrupted that space, I'd feel frustrated and just felt very defeated. So when I read this book, he gave a very quick, simple, practical way to start with the Lord in the morning. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try that and see if that works for us. And so I did. And you wake up and the first thing you do is kneel down by your bed and say a quick prayer, a long prayer, whatever is ahead of you in the day that you feel like you really need the Lord to step into, or just thankfulness that you're awake and your house got good sleep last night. Whatever's on your heart to bring to the Lord, and welcome him into your day and ask him to be a part of your day. I found that it sometimes was interrupted, but it could have been a very sweet thing. You know, I had kids come in and stand there awkwardly staring at me on my knees thinking, what is mom doing? I'm hungry. Why are we not eating breakfast? Or I'd have kids join me that morning and pray with me. And it was a very sweet, quick time. Nothing that took up our whole morning or that I feel like, oh, we didn't get to that today. And later, Jace came up to me one time after doing it for a while and thanked me for doing that. And I thought, what I am choosing to do with my space in our day overflows to them whether I realize it or not. That brought comfort to his heart, that his mom started her day in prayer, and that's what he wanted to do with me when he'd seen me doing that. And then we'd skip the couch and we'd go outside. We have a great place to sit outside now that we're in this home, and starting the day outside kept me away from dishes and laundry because that was usually what I wanted to start first. And I have my devotional, I have their devotional. They're welcome to come out and join me in that, do their own. And it made time and space for beautiful conversations or just being outside where they go play and I finish what I wanted to get done for that day. And so that has changed our structure of our day, just that time in the mornings. And we recently went through, traveling, holidays, 2.5 weeks of sickness. And we weren't doing any of that. We were literally surviving with multiple kids up during the night and medicines constantly and on the couch. And Josh had told me, I feel like you're just off. And I said, well, my rhythms are off and I feel it. And that was a big wake up to this is important for everybody in your space, what I'm choosing to do with my day, that he noticed, even though he is not in that rhythm with us in the morning. He could tell we were all off on that. So it was a sweet nudge when you asked me to join this podcast to get back into that for sure.
Mine was also a morning habit. Just really blessed by that, and mine is so similar. Mine was mornings too, and I would get up and just start like working. I would get up and I would start a load of laundry, and then I would start doing the dishes, and I would just get into the day. I mean, I'd probably look at my phone, I don't even remember, but I would just start going. And that was a long time that I'd done that. And I would also just let whatever happened, people asking me for things. And so I would just let the day just start. And I just started feeling convicted about that if the Lord was first, why wouldn't I just put him that way? And it just became, I just started feeling like this is just personal. This wouldn't be what it is for everybody else. But it was in a season where it was like, why can't you stop? That's an issue for me, is just stopping. And so it was, why can't you stop and put me first? Am I really? So it just felt kind of like an idolatry of everybody else's needs. And anyway, so my thing was, I will sit on the couch. I will go straight there, and I will read and pray. So Luke got me this devotional. It was like a prayer planner thing. Now I use a prayer app. So the thing that it isn't central. It was kind of hard for me. Anyway, you can problem solve what works best, but it was the practice of sitting and seeking first thing. And so that was 2 years ago. That being in the Word, all of that has made my own spiritual life significantly different. There's so much I could talk about with that. What I was also thinking this morning was about what it has done in my home. And I was thinking of sharing how you start a practice, how it starts to shape every other people who are in your home without you saying anything. And I was thinking about how once I sat there, then my children sat with me. And instead of rushing to things, now I snuggle them. And then once I sat there, then I started reading them a Bible. And now me and William have cruised through Bibles. And there was such a season where I didn't do that. So I was thinking not only of the practice you begin, but of how it then shapes the atmosphere to stop running straight from something, that the habits spread. One thing then sets a different tone, and you don't know how it does that.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing that through my failure of not getting up before kids, that they were invited into that space with me. And I was beating myself up for not giving that space to the Lord, but he still made something beautiful out of what I was able to do. And I think that's just the beautifulness of how it can work for your family in your season, whether you're working or you're home.
Right. And the practice you started was kneeling.
Yes.
You just said, I will kneel.
Yes. Yes. And that's what he gives you in the book, which is where I got that idea. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, Lord, I will sit.
Yeah.
I will sit.
I will kneel. You will sit.
Yes. It was just a small thing. All I know is I will sit. Anyway, and you shared your morning practice, and you, so we were starting to say what was deformative. I rushed to work.
I started dishes and laundry and TV and phones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so during that season,
so I think years ago I read somewhere that to greet God when you wake up, and it hit me that why would I think that it's important? Like, I would never ignore Terry when we got up in the morning, or my children. I would never just walk past them and not say, good morning, how'd you sleep? Or something like that. Why would God not be the first one? He's waiting for me. There's a Michael Bethany song that I love where this song is about God is just waiting for you to wake up, and he's there. So I started having the habit, not kneeling, but when I wake up, it's like, good morning, God. And I might quote the 23rd Psalm. I might at night try to say the Lord's Prayer. But then the difference, though, is I would do that, but then I would go get my Spark, it's my coffee, and then I would look at Facebook, because I'm thinking, I made the excuse, I'm not quite awake enough for God yet. You know, I got to drink my Spartan, get good and awake to give God the best time. So I'm going to look at this Facebook. That, I have changed that now. Because God gets the first moments. It's beautiful. And so I don't look at Facebook the first thing anymore. And I give him the first hour. Sometimes, y'all, I don't have kids bugging me or anything. I can go into 2 hours. It's amazing. So yes, I try to make that brief.
Yeah, that was great. I do find that I do have a continued problem with my phone creeping in because I do something on my phone. So just like you said, the holidays set you back, and you had to practice. Then Facebook got in the way, and then my prayer app is on my phone, so I had to stop using my phone and use my computer where I'm not as tempted. So even with habits you establish, things can creep in. So it's not all roses, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, for sure.
Yes,
I cannot use my phone for any of that stuff because it's just too tempting.
it's such a temptation.
Can I just say, I think this one little thing is, I think to remember, do what works for you is what we're hearing here. And
Right.
yeah.
And sometimes that takes multiple tries and multiple failures.
Yes.
And I shared with you that once you are into a rhythm for a little bit, God puts that desire in your heart to continue that,
For
where you
sure.
crave it.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
a beautiful thing to witness once it becomes not necessarily just a habit that when it is missed, you notice. And I know that that's God putting that desire for you to stay in that.
Yeah, they're beautifully just taking us to the next section. Okay, so our final section is just about the power God has given us in our bodies to turn our routines into rhythms. So I found this idea really helpful in Dallas Willard. So the changes we want to make, getting into something that we just desire to do, you can't do that at first yourself. What Dallas Willard says is, so I'll read some quotes and then we'll get into them. He says, our body is a primary resource for our spiritual life, and it should be our primary focus of effort in our part of the process of redemption, because it is the place where God has given us independent power and freedom. We are to take this task with the utmost seriousness in the most literal of senses, since no one, not even God himself, will do it for us. That is the meaning of our freedom and of our responsibility. So what Dallas Willard is saying that I feel like is helpful and encouraging is that what we can choose to do is to use our body and do something new with it. Spiritual formation is never kind of our business, really. The changes that we want to make, we cannot make. I want to become all kinds of beautiful things that I'm not yet. I want things for my kids. I mean, the kinds of things we've said. I mean, there's so much in my home and in my own life that I recognize I want to change, and I do not know how to change that. But that's the reason I said, you knelt. I sat. I knew, I shouldn't do this. I could sit. And what he's saying is that is where we're responsible. And our body is like a power pack for our lives. We are making all those decisions, and we are choosing to pick up our phone. We could put the phone down. We could just kneel, or we could say a different prayer. We could choose to say a blessing. There are all these choices that we could make, and that part I do not think is daunting. Right. We just haven't realized that it might be small, and I think we also don't realize how much the Lord does want to meet and help us when we make that decision. And after a while, the problem is we have to do it for a little while, and that has always been my problem, is that it's not that fun after a little bit. But after a little while, once you start doing it, then even one small one that you do long for it, and it does really significantly change. Not just you, but possibly the atmosphere around you. Justin Early Whitmill, your guy, says, you can't think yourself out of a pattern you didn't think yourself into. You practiced yourself into it. So you have to practice yourself out of it. And this, we haven't even quoted scripture yet. Let's just make this one really, really significant. Romans 12:1. Paul says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. So what could we do that would present our bodies as worship? Something new this year. And like you're saying, Jordan, doesn't have to be big.
It doesn't.
Doesn't have to be big. So for the rest of this podcast, we're just going to give some ideas in some sections of time. I think we covered waking pretty well with just different things that we each do. I wanted to share that Mandy Horn, she realized that she was, I hope this is okay, Mandy, that I'm sharing it. That she was starting her day kind of grumbly because she really hated to get up and that was hard. So she decided to start beginning her day with thankfulness. So when she wakes up, she says thank you to the Lord for waking her up. And she said that has significantly changed the way that she wakes. So there's another waking practice. I wanted to share some around working. We've shared some of the work that we do. But many of the people that we love, many of our ladies are going to 9-to-5 kinds of jobs. So I asked some of the people who do that about their own practices. And I was struck a little bit by the opportunity that we have to bless other people. And I think that is a lot of what all of us have, is just interacting with people. Once the day gets going, there are people to bless. So Kayla, beautiful Kayla, she's a loan officer at a bank. And I wish I could share the pictures with y'all of her workspace because they are examples of training your body to focus on Christ. It is full of sticky notes. She has little Jesuses all over her workspace. She said that customer service is hard and that what helps her most is any sort of scripture. So she has sticky notes of scriptures on her phone and on her computer monitor, bulletin board. But she said the phone notes, with customer service, the scripture is what she needs the most. And she said also throughout the day, I was just struck by Kayla's liturgy of her day. She said she listens to Christian music before work and after work. She says at lunch, she reads her Bible or a devotional, or she may even watch The Chosen. She said anything that keeps her connected to the Lord. And I thought, well, she's not beautiful for no reason. She just is beautiful. And if you try to stay connected like that to the Lord all day long, then you're probably, and Sydney told me everybody asks her about all that stuff on her desk all day long. So that's just a beautiful example of staying grounded and connected to the Lord. As Tracy Orton manages her husband's medical office. And she said that she and Steve regularly pray with their patients. So I was thinking about blessing people in your work. But she said the question made her think about a daily rhythm for her in light of, she just kind of went through the process already herself. She said talking on the phone is her hardest moment because it interrupts her and then she doesn't know what she's gonna have to do, who she's gonna encounter on the phone, and that's kind of stressful for her. So she said that when the phone rings, she is going to think something like, this is someone God is sending our way to bless, and thank God for that person. So that's exactly the kind of practice, thinking of something and then changing it. And then Sarah shared, Sarah was the director of PR and marketing in her previous job. So some of these are from that, and now she works from home. She said she lit a 3-wick candle and would pray. I find practices like that are so easy and recentering. But it helped her stay aware of the Lord's presence with her. And she said when anyone would come in, she told them that if that candle was lit, that meant she was kind of in a sacred space, and they would, kind of recognize that was happening. And it would just kind of set the tone in a different way in her office. So I thought those were all helpful for anyone who's trying to brainstorm some new practices around work.
I just have a thing that someone had told me. Our sweet Beth, on her way to work, I shared with her the Lectio 365 app, and it's like a 10-minute little devotional every morning and noon and evening. And so she listens to it on the way to work because she may not have time in the morning getting up and getting ready, whatever her routine is, but she knows that she'll listen to that, and that sets her day in a beautiful way. So that is another rhythm that a working person has done that I just wanted to add in there.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and let's finish up with resting or just ending your day, closing up your day. I don't have beautiful ones around this. I've tried to start plugging my phone in away from my bed because my phone is just hard for me at nighttime. I don't feel like it helps me, but do either of y'all have any closing of day rhythms that you could share?
Yeah, mine is taking a bath before I put kids to bed. They usually go to bed very close to when Josh and I go to bed. So by that time, usually I'm pretty grouchy and ready for everybody to be in their beds. And so a bath resets me. I have this sweet little, very quick devotional that I read. And so it just winds me down for my day and puts me in a good headspace to go and put children to bed. So much so that they're like, Mommy, I think it's probably your bath time. I'm like, yes, you are right. I will. And it's very quick. Like, I am not in the bath very long. But everybody loves when Mom has taken her bath because I'm just, okay, it's bedtime, everybody. And I can just deal with the harder things because I've taken that moment. So
I think that's beautiful.
no one's happy on shower night. If my hair has to be washed, it's just, we're all just all going to be grouchy. That's just how it is. So a bath for me is my
It's a great idea.
routine to reset, to get ready for bedtime. So, yeah.
Thank you. It's great.
I tried to, not every night, but a lot of nights, I listen to Lectio 365. And it's so beautiful because the day is done, the night has come. Friday will soon be over. And this lady's voice is so calm and wonderful. And then just leads me through a review of the day and where I saw God. It just helps because she just leading me through things that I need to confess or things like that. So anyway, and CR, it goes in, CR taught me this kind of daily inventory to go over how was God present with me today, what promptings did I notice, how did I respond or not respond. So those are things if you don't want to listen to the thing. That's kind of my routine at night if I haven't gotten too sleepy laying on the couch watching a show with Terry right before I go to bed. So.
I would like to add that the book, Habits of the Household, adds some very sweet bedtime routines with your children that are speaking truths over them or a verse that they grow up hearing every night before bed. And depending on the age and the season of kiddos you're in, some of them are really funny, like you're bouncing in a bed with them and it's, Lord, help them to continue to bounce their way into joyous moments with you for their whole life. So it's super flexible and sweet on how he helps you incorporate good, positive things with bedtime with kids.
Thank you, Jordan, for sharing those from the book. And Miss Becky, I also want to pick up on the Lectio 365 thing. Each of our children play that themselves, for themselves, which creates some problems if you don't want a kid to have a device with them at bed. But all of our children play that and fall asleep to that. And that app just is a beautiful app. Sydney listens to it before school herself. So it's called Lectio 365. Anybody, you can download it, and it has a short devotional in the days, and then at night it has the same liturgy that it plays every night. It's very beautiful. So we've mentioned that a couple times just so that that's here on the podcast. Okay, that concludes our ideas, our suggestions. I hope that that's not overwhelming in any way. All that I was hopeful that we could do is offer lots of little ideas. The ideas with difficult places of habits and possible good habits isn't to be prescriptive in any way or to make you think, oh, they do these things. Or it's just to help your mind to begin to think about the moments in your day that are formative that you maybe haven't recognized before, and about the small changes that you could make, and just maybe some ideas. It's just a brainstorming session is what we've been hopeful to do here. So as we close, I'm just going to ask some questions. Our deep hope is that you will actually choose to make some small change this year, because the Lord could meet you in it. And there just is more for us in our lives than we've had before. So just think about these as we close up. I hope that you can spend some more time after the podcast is over And I just pray that the Spirit will guide your heart and your mind as you reflect, that He will show you something that you can do, just an invitation to a place in your life that you haven't considered before, where He would like to meet you, and that invitation will be hopeful, even if it involves change, that you will see the vision for what He could have for you in it. So what does your day look like? What does your body actually do in one day? Think about the habits that you have, the practices that you are already engaging in throughout your day. First of all, is there a habit you practice with your body that doesn't help you spiritually at all? You may already know one of those. Is it totally worthless? Could you let that go this year? I'm sure that would be helpful. But maybe there's a rhythm or a routine that you already have. Maybe one in the categories we've talked about, waking or working or going to bed. Could you choose one of those times and transform that into a spiritual rhythm? Could you turn your mind to Christ in some concrete way during that moment of your day, in a way that makes that your own little daily liturgy? Maybe it's a moment in the day that's difficult for you, like Tracy's phone calls at work. Maybe it's a moment that you know sets the tone for the rest of the day, like me and Jordan moving straight into activity. Or instead, you could sit with the Lord on the couch. Could you spend some time thinking of the moment in the day that you will offer your body, the power that you do have, as a living sacrifice to the Lord, and see how He will meet you in it?
Lord, I thank you for this group of women who desire you and seek you in so many different, beautiful, creative ways. And we thank you for all the ways that you will show up as they continue to seek you or start to seek you in different parts of the day, that we know you will put a desire in their hearts at certain times when they need to feel closer to you, Lord, and that they can just relish in the beauty of what you've done for them in those moments. And may it just draw them to a beautiful space, and that others see that, because that's what we're here for, Lord, is just to be your light and help these lead to beautiful moments where that light is shining so bright that others notice. Thank you for the space today that's been given to them to listen to this podcast. May it be a blessing to them as it has been for me, and that you just be with all of us until we meet again. Amen.
Amen.